Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, which is going to be different than our previous topics. We're going to talk about an event that is awaited worldwide and by everyone every 4 years. This event gathers the world to compete, celebrate and unite under the same competition, the World Cup of football. For the American audience of you, when I say football, I mean soccer. There isn't a better time to make this video as we are currently following the 22nd edition of Football World Cup in Qatar. But our video is not going to talk about the different prognosis nor about the current World Cup, even though many strange events are linked to it. But we're going to dive into the darkest and most mysterious conspiracies, tragedies and scandals surrounding the previous editions of Football World Cup. Which one of us have not seen the footage of Zinedine Zidane's last match with the French team headbutt Marco Materazzi during the 2006 FIFA World Cup finale, or in 2014 FIFA World Cup when the Uruguay attacker Luis Suarez bit Giorgio Chiellini on the shoulder, and many other events that became trends and made noise within media and football fans. But what we're going to talk about today is much darker and tragic than these events. Let's go way back in the history of Football World Cup, way back to the second edition of World Cup in 1934 in Italy. At that time, Italy was ruled by Mussolini, the dictator and fascist leader. Rumors of corruption, bribery and threats in order for Italy to hold the Football World Cup started, and as we all know, an event such as the World Cup is the best kind of publicity any country could obtain. The first scandal surrounding the Italian team was that 4 of the Italian players were in fact of Argentinian nationality and were given the Italian nationality right before the beginning of the World Cup in order for them to compete along the Italian national team. Second, numerous referral scandals during the World Cup, and you guessed it right, all in the favor of the Italian team. For example, 2 goals were cancelled for the Spanish team during the quarter-finals against Italy. During another game between Germany and Czechoslovakia, the Italian referee eased the way for the victory of the Czechoslovakian team against Germany in order for it to go to the finale. You might ask yourself, what does it have to do with Italy? Well, Italy was qualified to the finale, and in order for them to have an easy game and win the title of world champion, they had to play against a weak rival, which is Czechoslovakia. If they played against Germany, victory would be a lot harder. These scandals don't compare to the terror in which the members of the Italian team were living in. Politics was interfering a lot in football, but during that time, Mussolini threatened the players. Before the final game, it was reported that the Italian national team received a letter from Benito Mussolini stating, "Victory or death." Scary. Many players denied having received any kind of threats from Mussolini or anyone else. But the goalkeeper's diary states that right before the final game, the players were invited to the presidential castle, and during the event, Mussolini threatened the players. Either they win the game and the champion title, or they die. Italy won the game and therefore was titled as the World Football Champions for the first time in their history. In 1938, during the World Cup held in France, same scenario played itself again. The Italian team was again threatened of death if they did not win the cup. The final game was between Italy and Hungary. Italy won again and were world champions. In spite of the Italian players denied being threatened, the goalkeeper of the Hungary team stated that it is the first time he is happy to lose a game because they have saved the lives of 11 players of the Italian team. From France to England to the controversial World Cup of 1966, when England was titled world champion for the first and last time. Many conspiracies surrounding the 1966 edition of World Cup. The first was the fact that the British team insisted on having all their games played at Wembley Stadium that can hold up to 100,000 attendants, and it was not for nothing. The British team was certain that the stadium would be full of British fans and would definitely play an important factor in motivating the British team. Other reports criticized the referral mistakes made during several games in favor of the British team. For example, Brazil was disqualified after being world champion during the previous 2 editions of World Cup, when the referee cancelled 2 goals claiming offside. And since the technology of video assistant referee was not yet adopted in football, there was no way of checking the legitimacy of the goals. This edition of World Cup was also the reason to start using yellow and red cards during football games. In one of the games between England and Argentina, the referee kicked out the captain of the Argentinian team. Due to the language barrier between the German referee and Argentinian player, it took 10 minutes for the player to understand what he was asked to do. The British team was qualified for the finale and would play against the national team of West Germany. Both teams scored 2 goals during the match, and for the first time in the history of football, the additional prolongation time was added, and in the minute 101 of the game, Geoff Hurst shot a ball that hit the goal post. Surprisingly, the referee announced that the goal is legit, and according to what he saw, the ball crossed the line of the goal, therefore was the winning goal for the British team. The goal was later on called the Ghost Goal. 1973. The story did not happen during the World Cup itself, but it was during the qualifications to the World Cup of 1974. In 1973, a military coup happened in Chile, the country where the qualifications to the World Cup were happening. The military coup that was led by the General Pinochet was refused by most people in the country. Everyone who was against this coup was kidnapped and imprisoned, most of which were just college and university students. The number of the people arrested at that time was so high, hundreds of thousands, and the traditional prisons did not fit to contain them all. Therefore, the General Pinochet had the brilliant idea to turn the National Stadium of Santiago into a concentration camp. This camp, according to the ones who survived it, witnessed the most brutal forms of torture. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people were killed mercilessly. The sad thing was that no country spoke up about the injustices happening there, and everyone just remained silent and ignored the crimes. On the football side, the Santiago Stadium was where the final qualification game was meant to be played in order to qualify for the World Cup of 1974 between the Chilean national team and the URSS national team. The URSS government refused playing in the Santiago Stadium in honor of the souls of the people who died there. On the other hand, the General Pinochet refused to change the location of the game and insisted that it is going to be played in the Santiago National Stadium. FIFA interfered to solve the disagreement and sent an investigation crew to the stadium. It has been told that this crew only checked the soil of the stadium and the 2 goals and came to the conclusion that the stadium is not a concentration camp nor a prison. This statement was not received well by the people who were arrested and tortured in that stadium. They stated that they were held captive in the lockers and changing rooms under the stadium, and that the investigation crew sent by FIFA decided not to look into the matter and ignored the horrible smell of blood that was mixed with the grass of the stadium. The decision of FIFA was made. The game is going to be played in Santiago Stadium. The URSS team stood by their decision. They were never going to participate in a game in that stadium. Pinochet then ordered the FIFA to announce the qualification of the Chilean team. However, FIFA insisted on having the game, and in order for the Chilean team to qualify, they have to at least score 1 goal. Pinochet did not hesitate. The game took place with 1 team only. the Chilean team, and the stadium welcomed about 15,000 fans, most of whom were forced to attend the game. The game began. After 1 minute and 30 seconds, the Chileans scored a goal, which obviously was empty and had no goalkeeper, and the referee announced the end of the game and the qualification of the Chilean team to the World Cup of 1974. This was one of the most ridiculous games in the history of football, and FIFA had a hand in it. Let's move forward now to the World Cup of 1982 that was held in Spain. The Algerian national team, referred to as the Desert Warriors, qualified for the first time in their history to compete in the World Cup. Algerian team was in the same group with Germany, Chile, and Austria. The Algerian national team beat Germany and Chile teams and lost against Austria. At that time, the winner gets 2 points for winning. Therefore, Algeria and Austria had the same amount of points. Austria had one last game to play within the group, which would be against Germany. And in the case of Germany winning the game with at least 1 point, both Germany and Austria would qualify to the second tour on the expense of Algeria and Chile. The game took place in Hihon City in Spain. On the 10th minute of the game, Germany scored their first and last goal. After that goal, the game took another turn. Both teams were passing the ball without even trying to score and purposefully wasting time. The game ended 1-0 to Germany team, obviously. Therefore, along with the Austrian team, Germany qualified to the second tour and Algeria was disqualified. A disqualification that was planned and caused a huge scandal called the Hihon Scandal. Some of you might think that the fans of the winning teams were happy. Well, not at all. German and Austrian fans, along with media, were ashamed of the conspiracy against Algeria. According to The Guardian magazine, during the game, the Austrian sport commentator ordered people to turn off their TV and not watch the game. On the other hand, the German sport commentator said that what's happening on the stadium is shameful and has nothing to do with football. The British ITV reporter described the game as one of the most ridiculous international games ever seen. The German fans were angry and followed the national German team players after the game to their hotel, and if not for the interference of the police, they would have broken into the hotel. Algerian team filed a report to FIFA. However, the decision was already made. The game was correct and the result is legit. After the Hihon Scandal and the injustices against the Algerian national football team, FIFA changed one of the rules that has existed since the establishment of World Cup rules, which is the final games of one group were to be held at the same time starting from Football World Cup of 1986, and that is in order to avoid any conspiracies against one team or another team. As a result, in spite of the injustice witnessed by the Algerian team, they managed to change FIFA rules and avoid any conspiring during future editions of the Football World Cup. These were only a few of the scandals and conspiracies that surrounded the Football World Cup. Politics had its share in these conspiracies. Obsession over victory led world leaders to interfere in games that is supposed to unify teams and in honest, fun competition. In spite of all these events, the Football World Cup remained one of the greatest events in the world, and in every country competes in order to host it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. Let me know which team you support in this World Cup and give me some of your prognosis, even though probably when you see this video the World Cup would have ended. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and don't believe everything you see.